Leicester and how they lost last night in their Europa League game in Poland to Legia Warsaw. A few people been getting in touch about it already, unhappy with what's happened this season. This is a tweet I just wanted to read out to you. It's not just this season. 24 points from the last 19 games. Not good enough to be in 13th. You're talking about £10 million a year for an elite manager, 7th highest wage bill in the league, retained entire first team, spent £55 million on top, got £100 million training centre. It's way bigger issue than that, hid by what was an amazing FA Cup win. So that's from CR5, who certainly is not happy with life at Leicester. Very different situation at West Ham, of course, because they have won their first two games in the Europa League, and they won yesterday, beating Rapid Vienna 2-0. They've had just one defeat so far this season. Of course, that came in the Premier League against Manchester United. But pretty much it's so far so good. Momentum. Tell us about it, Martin Keown. How important that is.
I think all credit to West Ham. Moyes, what he's doing at the football club. You know, they did make a number of changes last night. So, and their credit to their supporters as well. We've just been told there were 50,000 supporters. And I think somebody on this radio show and they was saying that they wouldn't be anywhere near that number. So
yes, I think Andy Goldstein may have said that on Drive yesterday.
Okay, he was completely wrong there. Completely wrong there, Andy. But no, don't ever underestimate the West Ham supporters. And they really got behind their team last. They're seeing something special at the moment, and it's really. I like the way that Moyes has set the team out, how creative they are. Declan Rice, we know the quality that he has. Noble coming in for a cameo performance last night. It's all looking very good. Dawson, number of headers, looks really strong. In every direction you look at, West Ham looking like they're going really well at the moment, and Antonio
going
up top.
Really well. Can they go so far as to break into the top four, let's say, this season?
I still feel they're not ready for that. I do feel that again the Europa League is a difficulty for them, but they're finding a way to win. You know, you've got to look at what they've done.
So why can't they upset the apple cart?
Well, there would be a possibility, but if you're asking me here now, will it happen? I don't think it will. But nonetheless, I think they're bringing an awful lot to the Premier League, and everyone knows now that we're now over that stage of the new stadium. They found a way to play. They're much better in their build up. They're more creative, and they have that punch up top. Antonio now that goal, the first goal last night, his involvement in that was just the next step. Took it on his chest beautifully. Rolled it across with his left foot. The technique involved in that was brilliant. His vision. And then, of course, Declan Rice making that powerful run from midfield. So everyone's really developing and growing within that environment and enjoying it. And the fans are turning up now with something to really cheer for. So it's a big moment in West Ham's history, what they're achieving at the moment. So really, let's just see how the journey goes. But it's a tough Premier League. Never been more competitive than it is right now. You see Liverpool sitting at the top of the table. You saw Man City, what they did to Chelsea last weekend. Manchester United will come again. So every game now is a tough week. It's tough in the Premier League to try and make it into that top four.
There was, though, some negativity from that game, wasn't there, last night at the London Stadium, unfortunately, with both sets of fans involved in some disorder. We saw bottles thrown across via...
Huge water bottle, by the way.
I know, one of those you get in an office, one of those huge... Yeah, in a gym, absolutely. So it was slightly marred by those incidents, Simon. And it's not the first time this season we've seen incidents involving both sets of fans at various games, and obviously you can go back to the Euros where we saw the disorder there. Should we be concerned in any way about the unrest that we're seeing from a section of fans?
It depends if we're amplifying it or not. Depends if we're taking it and putting it through a prism, as certain segments of the media like to do, and making it bigger than it is. Of course, any disruption that is not necessary in a football match, certainly from the fans, which means no disruption, should be tolerated. But I also think we have to give it context. Going back to what West Ham are doing, Swallows and Summer. Let's get some context here while we have this moment to share with the love-in on West Ham. Right? Yes, they've got a big fan base, and we know that they've turned up. Pretty soon, when they start losing some games, which they inevitably will be, up will pop the GSB crowd, telling everybody how much they loathe the owners. David Moyes is high on my list of people that I admire. You've just beaten a team that are stinking their own league out. Right, so with due respect, let's get some context. People will work out to some extent, and I think if Martin was playing in this day and age, he'd work out how to deal with people like Mikel Antonio a little bit, because whilst you're dealing with a player that's on top form, he's a physical player and perhaps can be handled by defenders a little bit better than he currently is. West Ham are doing well. Chapeau. Let's not get carried away. They're not going to get into the top four. They're having a nice little journey in Europe. Their fans are quiet at this moment in time and not moaning and about the owners and how much they hate their stadium. But this isn't the West Ham show. We aren't sitting here as glowing admirers of West Ham. We appreciate what they're currently doing, but it's very early in the season. And guaranteed you, if Declan Rice keeps on performing the way he is, when a £100 million bid comes in next year, he'll be leaving West Ham. So we'll see how this moment in the sun continues to develop for West Ham. I'm pleased for them. I'm pleased that they're doing well. I'm pleased for David Moyes. I'm pleased for Stuart Pearce. But I'm also mindful of the fact that there's an underlying current at West Ham which doesn't like the owners. And the moment that comes to the surface again, if West Ham's wheels come off or they don't continue to progress, that will come to the fore again. And I think they're doing very, very well, but I don't think they're anywhere near a top 4 side.
I do feel, though, that there is a feeling of satisfaction for those that admire football and watch other people and the development of managers. David Moyes stepped away from the game, not for long, and came back in, and he's wanting to buy players from the Championship. Ben Rama come in, finished that chance last night beautifully. Bowen, what talent he is, again from the Championship. Antonio, a fullback, is now like a leading centre forward, and Rice, you'd have to say, was more of a central defender than he was a midfield player. But now he's very definitely a midfield player. So all credit to the manager, and he has the Czech players in there really solid. So there's a good mix, and he keeps adding to it. Zuma coming in. So I think it's a really good story. Creswell, are there many better left backs really around the place than him at the moment? Everyone doing well under a really good manager. Let's see how far it can go.
Going back though onto the fan incidents, which I know you don't want to flare it up as such.
Yeah, I just hate shining lights on morons because I think that's the very thing that they want. But are we talking about this was a very big situation? Or are we talking about a level of unrest that we need to pay attention to but not to amplify?
Well, what I was going to ask is, because of course it's a minority of fans. The majority of the fans in that stadium were there to watch a game and enjoy a game.
How much of a minority is what I'm asking?
Absolutely,
we always know it's a minority.
No, you're quite right.
Well, I watched the game. Right. It didn't seem that overly bad. It looked like maybe an issue of segregation, but if we've got 50,000 people in the stadium, then that's not going to be an easy situation. It seemed like it was plastic bottles that were being thrown, and it looked like the stewards got there quite quickly. I'm not really sure what more could have been done.
I do think we have a strange society right now. I do think people are a little bit discombobulated. I do think also that and this is going to sound quite brusque and robust, but I do think we've empowered fans with the belief that somehow they managed to stop the ESL, and you start to see situations like Tottenham fans 6 games into a season demanding to have a meeting with the owners. So I'm not suggesting that's wrong and that then spirals into violence or disruption, but I do think there is an environment right now in society where you're seeing a lot of unrest, a lot of unhappiness, a lot of troubled people, and football is an emotional forum, and sometimes people can behave in a certain way, and it does support the argument, not that they should be, by the way, that we don't need to light that blue touch paper anymore by allowing the increased consumption of alcohol, which seems to be on the agenda.
Well, this is what I was going to mention, because obviously I think you had was it early this week or last week you had a police?
We had him this week, didn't we? Week. Yeah, we had one of the leading lights, that had very strong opinions about the absolute lack of necessity for alcohol consumption to be increased inside football stadiums, and I'm with him. I think this populist crap that's coming out from the agenda of having independent regulation is nonsense, and I'm afraid football fans have to own the minority. They have to own the minority of fans that want to behave badly, and stop comparing it to rugby and cricket and saying those sports over there can do it. Why are we the poor class, the poor citizens, the second-class citizens by comparison? Unfortunately, because we are, as football fans sometimes, we are tarred by the minority, and that's just the way it is.
And that's the problem, isn't it, Martin?
Well, I'm not a fan of alcohol, to be honest, full stop. Nor am I a fan of.
But when you
betting
see this unrest in football grounds, you are going to have a pushback, possibly, from some suggesting that alcohol should not be allowed in stadiums.
Of course.
But there are people that want to have alcohol back in stadiums.
Yeah, but we need to listen to the professionals, don't we? The ones that are actually at the coalface, the ones that, we don't want to be showered in alcohol, do we?
Listen to the police who know what they're doing.
So it's kind of like, but we are drinking in the stadiums, that people are intoxicated on occasions when they're at football matches, so it's not like it's not there already. There is an argument for this binge drinking could disappear. So we just, but we need to look at every argument before we dismiss it. It's just a shame that we can't treat football fans as adults as they are in every other sport. That's disappointing for me.